Oh my goodness! Welcome to the show, folks. How are you doing today? It is so good to be in front of you. I've missed you. How you keeping? How you doing the whole work from home thing? Are you still working from home? Are you in the office? Are you ready for I call it the season of big meals that's about to descend upon us? It's crazy. Also, we're approaching the year end, right? Everybody's pushing for their year end numbers, assuming you're on a fiscal calendar. Yeah, we're there. You know, there was a time I didn't have this problem. And then they made me CRO, and now I have this problem. So I feel your pain. I have to hit my number. And it's funny because as we're pushing the team to do that, we are indeed having the same challenges here that you have there, right? We're using all the tools, all the vehicles, all the channels of communication available to us to reach out to our target audience. The whole effect of what we're trying to do is, in fact, win over the C-suite, right? That's what we want to do. We want to convince and compel them of how great our solution is and how it's going to solve all their problems. In fact, if you could just give us that cash you're holding on to, then I'll be able to convince you. That's the thing. But if you're like me, if you're like my team, then you're kind of maybe stumbling a little bit. That may be why you're here today. Why? Because there's no in-person meetings going on anymore, is there? Everything is all digital. It's all virtual. And what are we doing? We're like inundating our target audience with emails and in-mail and convention and connection invites. We want to pitch them a demo. We want to just overwhelm them with content. We want to be social media darlings. And every single connection request we send, of course, it's not just, hey, let's be colleagues. It's more like, hey, have I told you about my company today? Which, by the way, if you're doing that, don't do that because it doesn't work. The reality is we're all guilty, I think, of using digital way too much, just overwhelming these people. You're going to see some interesting stats here today on just what we're talking about. And we're going to tell you when we're done here, what you need to do, what you need to stop, or what you need to do to actually win over the status quo of the C-suite. All right. You need to turn that around. We got the tools. Of course, it's not just me. I'm not that smart, but I've got a guest for you and you're going to love her. All right, so let's get into some ground rules. As you all know, you're on mute. So we can't hear you, but we do want to hear from you. So to do that, what you need to do is you need to go to the little chat window to the right of the video that's streaming to you right now, and you need just to put all your questions in there, and we will respond to those questions in real time. In fact, do me a favor. Let's do the classic, put in your city, where you're from. We want to see it. We want to give a shout out, show some respect. So do that now. Let's start the conversation. Don't be shy. If you have an opinion, you have a comment, maybe not a question, but you just want to be colorful, put it in there and we're going to participate in that with you. So that's the ground rules. Now, I promised you a really smart person who's going to help us overcome this challenge and make you really smart today. So let's meet my guests. Christina Jaramillo. I had to practice that. Jaramillo. I even tried to roll my H, which is the J. Jaramillo. So she's going to mock me. Look for that. She is the president of Personal ABM and a partner at Stop the Sales Drop. She is awesome. She helps sales and marketing teams win, protect, and expand key accounts using a more personal, account-based challenger approach. Look at that. She got the word personal. She got account-based. She got challenger. She's got it all. All right. So she's going to help us have this conversation today. Let's not waste any time. Christina, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, Daryl. It's great to see you again.
You look at how she says that. It's almost like with disdain. Thank you, Daryl. It's kind of great to see you again. Yeah.
No, I don't mean it that way.
I don't know. How you been? How you been keeping?
I've been good. Gearing up for the end of the year like everybody else.
Yeah. You going to hit your number?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you say that with a straight face? Look at that. Oh, there we go. A little bit of a grimace. All right. I understand that. Have you had a busy year? Because what you guys are all about, the whole personal ABM, has been profound this year. And I would think, if nothing else, it's really spotlighted your expertise.
Yeah, it's been a busy year. It's been a roller coaster year for like everyone else. This personal aspect of what we're doing has definitely been amplified by it because everyone's contributing to that noise on digital. So it's been a busy year, just different than I anticipated, like everybody else.
All right. So let's work through it. Let's work through the whole difference and figure it all out. What we're going to cover today. So on our next slide, we're going to talk about what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about how you need to sell differently. All right. If you want to overcome that C-suite that is now tuning you out because you've overwhelmed them, you're going to need to sell differently. All right. You need to stop making the mistakes you're making. We're going to talk about how some of your bad habits are resulting in a massive drop in responsiveness. And then what you need to do is talk a little bit about trust and value. Are you leading with trust and value? Trust me, most of you, not so much. Most of you are just doing a pitch. I know because I got all the connection requests. We're going to talk about your personal brand on social media, how that's going to lead to that. And then we're going to talk about how you can leverage that to get a lot more intimate. And I don't mean intimate in an intimate way, but I mean intimate in a very trusting, get to know you, get to like you, get to trust you, get to want to do business with you way. And eventually, of course, that's going to lead to an aha moment if you do it right. See, in the end, it's all about building those one-to-one relationships. And that's what we're going to help you do today. All right, so let's go to the next slide. I love this next slide. It's a quote from Tiffany Bova. It's pretty straightforward. How you sell matters. Got to read it that way. How you sell matters. What your process is matters. So I want you to start thinking, how do I sell? What's my process? That leads to this next phrase. But how your customers feel, intimately feel, when they engage with you matters more. Oh my, right? So have you ever asked yourself that? How do your customers feel when they engage with you? I like to use the word transaction. Many, many times when I have people pitching me, I feel like I'm just their next transaction. And they don't actually care about me, and everything they're saying to me is just a script. They don't mean it, it's insincere, and they don't really understand me. And when I feel that way, I reciprocate. And now this becomes a very transactional deal, and I treat you that way. And then I'm going to grind you on price if you do convince me that I'm just a transaction, because I don't think you're invested. So I'm going to get the best price possible. But when I feel like you are invested in me, you do get me, then what changes is remarkable. A couple things change. One, I cut you a lot more slack. I'm willing to let you have imperfect answers. I'm willing to let you have an 80% solution as opposed to a 100% solution because I kind of trust you, kind of like you. I'm willing to leave a little money on the table to make sure you have a win as opposed to grinding you. I'm willing to overlook a lot of the contractual language because it's a relationship. You and I have a bond. That's how I react. I go from pure price and nothing else matters to a win-win situation, all on how you make me feel. Now, ironically, that's how you sell, right? My feeling is about how you sell. And then your process controls and drives a lot of that. Anyway, that's me. Christina, what do you think when you read that? You're smiling.
Because I was agreeing with you and shaking my head over here. Because we know that it's hardest to get in front of C-suite people, C-suite executives. According to a recent Harvard Business Study review, C-suite executives like yourself, Daryl, spend 2% of their time with vendors each week. So that's roughly an hour, which you're competing for with who knows how many other vendors. And that's really costly, really time consuming, and it's costly in terms of money as well. But I think sales and marketing are wasting their engagement time or this interaction that we're having with C-suite because C-suite's looking for value. So every social, email, and live interaction has to have value. But I think what you were saying is a lot of, how other C-suite executives feel. They feel disappointed with the engagement that they're getting from sales and marketing because they're continuing to push their agenda versus helping them think differently about their business, giving a greater impact on how internally, how they can have a greater impact on their people, their P&L, their customers, everything. So they're just pushing out value prop versus sharing insights. And I really think that that's hurting the conversation and hurting that trust factor. And I'm stealing something from Matt Hines. He calls the CFO, now that, C19 hit, the CF no. So I think that's great. I'm stealing it. So decision confidence is at an all-time low, according to research from Topo. So even yourself, Daryl, you just mentioned, when you spend time with vendors, or how much time do you spend with vendors each week? And if they're not offering you value, don't you feel like your time is wasted, or, it's not worth the conversation?
Oh, it's huge. In fact, I was just on a call literally before this recording. It was a first-time outreach. It was a referral. That's why I took the call, because I trusted the person who gave me the referral. And I kind of said, yeah, I can maybe use something there. But I went in very kind of expecting to be sold, and sold hard. And actually, I expected them to lead with a demo, like go right into their product. And I was going to shut them down if they did. And it's nice to say and share with you, that didn't happen. We actually had a great conversation, talked to the big picture, talked about pains and needs. They were honest and forthright. They even swore once. Not that I suggest you swore, but it stood out in my head. She was making the comment like, if people do this, they're just doing shit. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, she said shit on her first call. And then the CRO kicks in and I'm like, would I want my reps to say shit in the first call? That's an interesting conversation. And then, away you go. Anyway, my point was there was value. And that was all said and done. It was me, not her, that said, you know what? I think I would want to see a demo, but before we do that, I want to bring a couple people in and join me on this. All because of how she engaged with me. And that's not common. But I want to ask you a question. Everything we've talked about so far here is very sales-centric. But the reality is, marketing is as guilty, if not more guilty, of spamming our target audience. That's C-suite. So what's marketing's role in this? What are they guilty of? What do they need to do differently?
Well, everyone's priorities have shifted. Budgets have tightened. Everybody's, holding onto their cash. Like we said, the CFO is now the CF no. But unless you show them how you're going to contribute to their pipeline, they're not going to, engage with you. You have that shorter window to show them time to value, and a greater need to showcase that you're an essential service now. So you can't be sharing just the long-term or multi-year, multi-quarter value prop you have. You need to show them the impact you're going to have immediately, as well as that more dynamic view. And I think marketing is failing to do that. So like what I've seen, at least, and you kind of alluded to this, Daryl, is that, second quarter this year, leads stalled, pipelines kind of froze. Everybody was kind of like in a wait and see mode. So sales and marketing in particular had to do something different to ramp up their efforts to gain traction in third quarter. But they were pushing out old campaigns, old messaging, and then they accelerated this in the fourth quarter with their efforts, and they didn't shift with the buyers, and they're not building case based on where their customers are now. They're kind of using that same messaging where their customers were 6 months ago, even a year ago, and it's totally different. And marketing has to take that into consideration.
So, your whole story is personal ABM. And I even opened up the conversation by saying I suspect with what took place this year, put a lot of spotlight on what you've been advocating for so long. Is that true? Has the whole personal ABM thing really come forward and been validated more so in the current climate?
I think it's really been validated in the current climate. I think everyone that wasn't a digital seller before, who was maybe an in-person seller or a relied on trade shows or relied on actually driving to their clients, has kind of been forced into the digital world if they weren't already there. So they're competing with people that have already been there for years, and they might be using their in-person techniques and tactics and strategies in digital, and it's not necessarily translating well. So that personal touch to everything, and I mean to every individual you interact with, not just, putting in their name or putting in their industry into an email or a message. It's actually talking to them on a human level that's going to make this conversation stronger. And I think, 2020 has amplified that totally.
All right. So I'm going to go to the next slide because you've actually got a nice segue. You said it's about talking to them on a human level. You said it's very personal. Is that different? Is that what you're saying? That now we need to sell differently? We need to be more personal? And let me be stupid for a second. Are you suggesting we weren't personal before? So how is this different? What do we need to do differently now? What were we doing? So what is it? What did we? Yeah, what were we doing? What does it look like now? What's the difference?
Okay. I think people confuse personal with personalization. Personalization is actually, like I said, adding in a name, adding in the industry, a role like that. That's not personal to the actual individual. I think that you have to. What I've seen from top performers selling differently and what they're doing differently is they're answering these four questions. How does it work? How does your solution work? What are the benefits of your solution? What's the business case? And why should I trust you? And I think most sales and marketing teams, they do it in that order, but the high performing selling teams or the teams that are actually engaging with the C-suite and their decision makers are going in the opposite order. They're starting with building trust and sharing the business case. So, sales and marketing conversations, have typically centered around features and benefits, but in order to drive that business case and credibility with C-suite, you have to start backwards. Your product and your service and your brand are distractions. They don't really care so much. Features and benefits are white noise. They're caring about value, and I think that's what's missing in all of this.
Oh, wow. There's a lot of marketers out there right now going, "You are evil. What do you mean my brand is irrelevant?" Of course, the developers are all out there and the product marketers are out there saying, "What do you mean my features are irrelevant?" Okay, so you can't just say that and leave that hanging, Christina. Why is it irrelevant?
Why is it irrelevant?
Yeah.
It's because people, they care about them at the end of the day, but if they're already talking to you, they know most of that. So you're basically just regurgitating info that they already know. So they want value. They can see the features and benefits of all your competition, but they can't see the actual value unless you show it to them, because a feature and a benefit isn't value to them. How do those features and benefits translate into increased revenue? How do they translate into stronger operations, stronger customer service, better retention, whatever you're trying to address? Where is that? How does that lovely feature translate to real value?
So how do you do that? If I reach out and say, "Hey, we have a whole bunch of clients, Daryl, who use our product and they get a 10x return on their investment within 90 days. And you're saying that's all irrelevant. So how do I go about selling differently?
It's not that 10x ROI is irrelevant. It's just not as important to the long term. You have to give them the whole picture, because once they get their ROI, what makes them want to stay? What makes them want to continue that relationship? What's
Okay.
that value long term?
So then how do you recommend I engage with them? So do I lead with, the classic is, tell me if this is right or wrong. I'm going to lead with, if I do this right, I know my ideal customer profile. Everybody who consumes my product, have these attributes, revenues, industries, whatever. And I know my personas, or I've often heard the term avatar. I hate that word, but that's just me. So in my case, VanillaSoft, we might sell to a head of marketing and a head of sales, and then maybe a marketing manager or director and a sales or an SDR manager. And then I might even go down to the actual, sales rep or SDR to champion up. The classic 3x3 grid of people we want to reach out to. All of those are different personas. So are you suggesting that I reach out to them and say, "Hey, our customers who are in your situation are facing this problem every single day. Is that a problem you're facing?" Is that how it open it up to start to get that dialogue going and not talk about VanillaSoft, not talk about our awesome sales engagement capabilities? In other words, because we open up by saying it's about trust. So how do I get that dialogue going? Because most of the C-suite just shut me down right away because they can smell a sales transaction happening a mile away.
Well, you have to lead with actual insights, get them to think differently than about something that the current issue that they're having internally. How can they do something different, as opposed to, like you said, they can see through the sales pitch right away. But if you're there to teach them, as opposed to push your agenda on them, it's a totally different conversation. And you can do that through stories. You don't teach through stats of why you're so great or how many awards your organization has won, or again, going back to those features and benefits, you're going to go through a customer story or an example of how you've worked with other organizations. But if you're not leading with teaching and sharing value up front, then of course they're going to sniff you out within 5 seconds.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So this is cool. So storytelling. All right, I'll go another step. Not necessarily having a call to action. So imagine me getting an email, and this has happened on a rare occasion, where it's kind of like, hey, Daryl, congratulations on being a CRO. One of my clients was appointed a CRO 6 months ago, and these are some of the challenges he had. Thought you might like this blog post where we featured his journey, and maybe you can learn something from it. Cheers. Right away, I'm like, I'm intrigued.
That's
Told
different.
me the story, tied it back to me as personal. Then when he shared like this value of this is what they went through, and I was like, yeah. And guess what I did? I would click through on that. Absolutely. Because I want to see there's something I can learn from that. I'll give you another example. Recently, we were looking at sales enablement platforms, and I was evaluating vendors, and I had a question for one of them, and it was nothing to do with the product. It was a philosophical question, and I was looking for advice. And I asked them, I said, here's my question for you. So I've got my head of sales, and I got my head of sales enablement. Now, sales enablement is supposed to be coaching the sales reps, making them better. But my head of sales would say, don't you dare coach my sales reps. I want to coach my sales reps because you hold me accountable for the number. Why would I ever abdicate coaching of my reps to another person as much as I like them? So, Mr. Sales Enablement Vendor, I'm curious, who should own that? Does that reside in the CRM or the sales engagement tool? Does that reside in the sales enablement tool? And their response was, check out this blog post by this CEO, which I went, CEO, a CEO who talked about how they managed the same situation. They didn't have a CRO. So in my case, I am the CEO in that story because I have those people. And I love that because they didn't pitch me anything and they didn't even give me an answer, but they pointed me in a direction that I can educate myself, that I can come back to them and say, okay, I think I know what I want to do now. How can you help me here? That was adding value. So is that what you're talking about, Christina? Was that the difference? I wasn't pitched.
Yeah, that's a significant.
Yes.
Oh, significant difference because you led with a story, you led with value, you led with insights, you had them think about something differently. You said that person was able to put you in a category with what you're going through similar to what they've already seen, as opposed to saying, can we schedule a demo? Can I take 10 minutes of your time? You're developing the relationship instead of jumping right to the sales pitch. And that's going to open doors way faster and just build a relationship on trust and continue to build.
Okay. So I'm going to share a story here, folks. I know for a fact that getting your sales reps to change is a bitch. You as a leader may know this is what you need to do. Christina's 100% correct. I wish she would have told me this back on July 1st when I took over the job, but no, she didn't care enough to tell me that. We'll talk to her about that privately. But she's right. But your challenge is twofold. It's recognizing that maybe your team is selling wrong and you need to go to this adding value, being personable, telling a story, not always hammering the C-suite for a demo or a meeting or a call to action, just building a relationship. Getting them to do that is hard. So segue, are you equipping yourself and your team with the right sales coaching, sales processes to facilitate that? So remember Tiffany's quote? She talked about the process. So one of the things we've done was we invested in conversational analytics. We use Chorus. You can use Gong, you can use Refract, you can use whatever you want to give us those insights to see if that's what's taking place, because we can monitor certain phrases and whatnot. That's how we coach our reps. And this is what we know. And I believe this is industry, and hopefully Christina will correct me if I'm wrong. When you start selling that way, you will typically generate 3 to 4 times more revenue than your counterparts who are not selling that way. In other words, doing it the same old, same old. Christina, does that number resonate? Is that, am I right? Have I got it? Am I too high? Am I too low?
No, you're spot on. 3 to 4 times more revenue than your counterparts, because you're doing it in the opposite way. You're leading with value instead of leading with and being salesy. So the minute someone knows that you're trying to sell them, it doesn't create a trusting relationship. But if you lead with value and insights absolutely 3 to 4 times is what we're seeing.
Okay. So then this is a good time to go to the next slide, because this is the part that I found so interesting as I went through my own journey, is that when we weren't doing that, we were seeing a huge drop in responsiveness. Now, some stats will say 44%. Maybe Christina knows the number. Maybe she can elaborate. But before I ask her of that, here's one thing I want you to think about. If you're not selling that way, then you don't have an ability to compare and contrast that impact on responsiveness. If you're just doing pitches, pitch, traditional, spam them with email, spam them with social media connection requests, you will probably see symptoms of minimal responsiveness. So the best way to do this is either take 1 or 2 of your reps in your team and use them as a pilot and say, we're going to go to this whole storytelling approach, this personal ABM approach, this unique way of selling, because the old way isn't working. My responsiveness sucks. And then what you're going to see is your responsiveness will go through the roof. And then you can really see that delta on what one approach is versus your historical approach is. Now, Christina, do you know anything about this drop in responsiveness stats?
Yeah, it's actually, I believe it was 44%. It was a LinkedIn State of the Sales report. It came out, I want to say first or second quarter of 2020. But either way, many companies are seeing a drop of in responsiveness, and I think they're saying it's because of C19. But I think it's because it's the way we want to engage. It's the way we're engaging that's having the drop of responsiveness. Buyers still want to engage with experts that can help them with their challenges now and in the future. Even if they can't buy at the moment, they want engagement with people that are going to help them along the way. But I think the problem with many sales and marketing teams, again, like we were saying, is pushing out a lot of in-mails, pushing out invites to connects, more nurtures, more social messages, more emails. So we're focused on activity metrics to show value to leadership internally in our orgs, instead of focusing on interactions that we're having. So it's not about just filling the pipeline with a bunch of fluff. It's about interactions that we're having with the buyers. So when they turn into buyers that actually can close a deal with you, they have a much better relationship with you, as opposed to, if I send out 100 messages just to send out 100 messages and I get one response, that to me is not success. I want to send out less and get stronger results.
Okay. So let me give you an example of what I think you're saying. That call I just had that I was on before this session was as a result of an acquisition that VanillaSoft made in October, and we announced in October. And the whole conversation was around, hey, you've got this new product line, and we've got a lot of clients in our platform that are just like this company you bought. And this is a strategy they're using to drive more revenue. Now, I know you're doing the integration. I know you're trying to figure out how to rationalize that with your own go-to-market strategy of the traditional VanillaSoft, the way you've always done it. Don't know where you are in the process, but let me share with you, what other companies like yours, the one you just acquired, are doing and successfully to drive revenue, and that can help you figure out what you're doing. Part of the reason that worked so well for me was because it was relevant. So she had a storytelling element and she had a relevance element. Both of those captured my attention. One was, it mattered to me, the relevance. Yeah, I did just acquire. And I am trying to figure out how to maximize this money I spent to acquire this company. And the other part was, oh, by the way, you're the CRO and I know you're struggling with, does the sales enablement person do this? Does your sales leader do this? Let me hook you up over here. Both of those really worked, but it was the relevance that was like a 1-2 punch. Why do people struggle so much making things relevant, Christina? Because it would seem to me, if I had to describe personal ABM, I would, in one word, I would just say relevance.
I think what it is that relevance might be different for the buyers and the sellers, and there's a disconnect there. I think the relevant value that the buyer, or excuse me, that the seller is sharing might not be the actual relevance that the buyer sees. So I think there's that miscommunication of pushing out, again, like I said earlier, about pushing out your own agenda as a sales and marketing person versus thinking about what's going on internally there. Like obviously the person you just spoke to, Daryl, had done some homework on you and knew where you were, knew about the acquisition, knew that you might be struggling, but didn't want to lead with, let's go to a demo right away. You asked for the demo, or you might ask for the demo, as opposed to her saying, let's do the demo right now, or let's do it on the next call next week.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say in the end, you said this different way of selling. If we keep on doing it the same old, we're going to keep on inundating them with the traditional outreaches, the spam, the emails, the product pitches, the demo requests, 10 minutes on your calendar tomorrow at 2 p.m. And they will keep on tuning us out. And that is status quo. And we want to avoid status quo. Part of that is we need to make it personal. We need to do the storytelling. We need to connect with them as people on their role based on what we know of their ICP and their persona. So sidebar, talk to your marketing folks. If they haven't helped you identify your ICP and persona, you're already doomed. When they make it relevant without necessarily making an immediate ask, that starts to really build trust and the perception of value. And I know we've got a whole slide on this and on the importance of trust and value. And this is such an overused phrase, but I can tell you myself, when I'm teaching and training my sales reps, it's actually really hard to convince them of why they need to establish trust and value. Many of these people are young. They don't feel adequate, prepared, able, entitled to have a conversation with an executive buyer. They're intimidated. They're suffering from imposter syndrome. So the whole concept of teaching them and coaching them and grooming them to deliver trust and value when they're suffering from that imposter syndrome is a son of a gun. It's a bitch. But if you don't do that, you're never going to succeed and you're going to massively miss your number, no matter how hard you push at the year end. Christina, talk to me about the importance of trust and value. What do I get if I have it? What do I get if I don't have it?
All right, there's a couple of different things. If you don't have trust or value, you're going to be ignored or avoided. So you're going to go back to that sending tons of mass messages and nothing's happening. If you lack trust, but have a little bit of value, then the C-suite or who you're trying to engage with is going to go to other sources for validation. So that's a key thing there. But if you lack value if you lack value but have the trust, they'll engage with you in the social way. Maybe they'll connect with you. Maybe they'll like a post, but that's about it. But if you have the trust and the value, they're going to be more willing to engage with you on and off social. So I think it's all about credibility and showing up like you're supposed to be there, like you have a right to be there, and the confidence, they can see right through that as well. So that goes into the whole trust and value.
One of the things that's interesting, I want to make sure you fully understand this, guys, because this is subtle. If you show me that I can trust you and that you're going to add value to me, guess how my interaction with you changes? It changes from just responding to your outreach on social or just replying to an email. I want to talk to you live. And 9 times out of 10, it will be me initiating that. Hey, can we have a conversation? I want to drill down more. You're all so busy, either as a sales rep or as a sales leader, desperately trying to convince them to ask for that conversation. Yet if you deliver trust and value, your target prospect will come to you and say, I want to make time on my calendar and I want to bring some of my team with me. Again, the biggest challenge I have is getting my team to physically not sell to just one person. They find one person who has happy ears and will listen to them, and they just glom onto them and they try to ride them all the way to the deal. And then when it gets to the signing ceremony, the deal falls apart because they didn't build consensus. Right? Can you relate to that? You sales reps, I know you know what I'm talking about. You sales leaders, you're just like groaning right now, banging your head against the wall. It's going, oh, I tell them that, I tell them that. But they're so scared to disrupt a positive sales cycle because they have somebody who likes what they're saying that they don't want to risk anybody saying no. So they just don't invite them. That's the opposite. When you show me trust and value, I bring my team together. You know why I do that? It's really simple. Because I see the value in what you're offering me. But I need my team bought in. If they're not bought in, it doesn't matter how much I like what you're selling me. It's going to fail. Because I got news for you. I'm not implementing and deploying your solution. I'm turning to my team and say, go do it, guys. Let me know how that goes. Do you need more money? Do you need more resources? Do you need more time? Whatever you need, tell me. But otherwise, good luck. And by the way, I expect this to generate, when we're done, better outcomes, not necessarily more activity. And that's what I see too many times when sales teams are failing. What do? They say, oh, we're not hitting a number. We need to do more activity. Think about that. You're failing because you're not building trust and value. You're not making it personal. You're not making it relevant. You're having a crappy response rate. And you think the answer is to do more of that. It's not. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing you've always done. That's why personal ABM matters. That's why you need to do it differently. That's why Tiffany Bova talks about the experience from your customer. Now, Christina, refresh me. I'm pretty sure I've seen this. I know Gartner's got this killer magic quadrant. Every single software vendor in the world wants to be on the magic quadrants when you always want to be in the upper right. I think it's like, your ability to execute and, whatever, how much money you've got or how much money you've bribed them with. I may be changing the axis. We get the idea. Everybody wants to be in the upper right quadrant. But you guys have a similar chart, don't you?
Yeah, it's our value trust quadrant. It's our version of a magic quadrant. There's 4 boxes, basically. There's 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. The y-axis up and down is trust, and then across the bottom is the x-axis is value. And everyone basically starts in the bottom left, where no trust, no value, and you're going to be ignored if you hang out here. So the goal is to move to another box. So let's go to the bottom right. And that's where you have no trust, but you're showing a little bit of value. So basically the value that you're showing, the C-suite or whoever you're engaging with is going to go to other sources for that validation. Top left is you trust, but no value. So you have the credibility factor. And if you lack the value, the C-suite's going to maybe engage with you on social, like we were saying. Maybe they'll connect with you, and that's about it. And then you get ignored, ghosted, whatever it is. The top right is where we want to be. There's going to be both trust and both value, like we've been talking about. And that's where the C-suite's going to engage with you on and off social. You're going to tick both those boxes. But just remember, everyone likes to, that's where everyone starts, is the bottom lower left. So that ignore, avoid category. And you only have one shot to move to that next quadrant, whether it's, up and to the right or the other options. But one communication misfire and wrong interaction, one email that has no value, you're trying to pitch me right away, is going to lead to unresponsiveness, inaction, maybe place you in the other resources quadrant because you failed to establish that position of trust that we've been talking about.
All right. So let's walk this through the whole process, right? So you're going to mix it up. You're going to make it relevant. That's going to lead to trusts because of the value. But let me tell you something. when I have these conversations with you folks, and you do it right, you give me relevant, personalized content, and you intrigue me. Not necessarily a hard ask. I'm so intrigued that I'm like, who is this person? I don't know this person. Maybe I've heard of your company, maybe I haven't. I do two things. I go to your website right away because I don't believe you. I need to go look at your corporate marketing messaging to make sure I really understand what you're doing. Look for some of your other logos. Who do I know in your management team? Where are you located in the world? Can you support me? Do you support companies like me of my size? I'm doing all that in your website. And then the next thing I do, in fact, I often do this first, is I go to LinkedIn and I say, who is this person? So in the case, if it was Christina selling me, I'd be searching on LinkedIn for Christina Jaramillo with a ha. And I'd be doing that to say, what's her background? How old is she? Where'd she go to school? How many shared connections do we have? Does she understand my world? Let me look at her LinkedIn activity. What's her education? What's her work history? Is this person worthy of my time? Do I feel like they're relevant to me? So it's kind of like relevance to the next level. The first one's relevance on the pain and the solution possible. And the next one is relevance of this person. And that's why this next slide is so important. Your personal brand on social media is as critical as the sales approach. So sales leaders, you can work on training your sales reps, but if you've not worked on the personal brand, then you will again die. There's multiple stages along the way you can die. So you can't just change your approach. You got to change your personal brand. Not the corporate brand. Marketing should do that. Your personal brand. Christina, I know there was a lot of this covered in a variety of places, LinkedIn's study again, and other places. Talk to me about the importance of personal brand. What have you seen this year?
Well, like you said, Daryl, a lot of people are going to look at your website. They're going to look at your company, but most importantly, they're going to look at you because they're going to engage with you or not engage with you by looking at your profile. So like you said, there's a LinkedIn report says about 62% of decision makers look at LinkedIn before deciding to connect, talk to anyone, whether it's sales, marketing, business leadership. But what I found is that about 95% of profiles are irrelevant and do not build trust. That's that word again, the irrelevant and trust. Because I'm seeing a lot of profiles that, they're not building trust because the C-suite is looking at resumes or, they're looking at your past job history. If I am a decision maker, I don't care about your sales quotas. I don't care about your sales positions. I don't care about the achievements and awards. It's great. But how does that help me? They care about the value that you can deliver to them. And they need to see how you can help them with their current situation and how you can continue to evolve and help them achieve their future and long-term goals. And I think that's a big misstep because, there's a misalignment with the buyer's new priorities on your profile and, challenges buyers are facing because you're not talking to those. And they need to see a relevant business story going back to that to make that emotional human-to-human connection. And one other thing that I'm seeing is, that third person in your profile that has to stop. That's an automatic disconnect. You wouldn't speak to me that way, so don't have your profile talked about you in the third person. It's weird.
So let me ask you this. When it comes to sales and marketing, how are they, or what are they doing that immediately starts them off on the wrong foot when it comes to personal branding?
Talking about themselves only, not talking about the value that they deliver to their clients or that they can deliver to potential clients. I do want to know a little bit about you, but if I get invite to connect or an email from you and I look at your profile and I see quota achieved for the last 6 quarters, I had President's Club achievements or winnings or awards or all this, it's all about me, as opposed to how you're going to help me, the buyer. So that's a big difference I see.
So let me give you an example of that. I love that you brought that up. When I go check out your LinkedIn profile, this is what I see. And it's usually a two-way approach because you all think, I got to do personal branding, so I'm busy on LinkedIn. And this is what I see, which is what you believe is good personal branding. I see like, attaboy, way to go, preach, like. Those are all your activity. And then on your posts, what I see is a reshare from your corporate posts, press release, webinar promotion, webinar, podcast, press release. And never along the way did you yourself tell me why this is relevant. You took the laziest ass way possible to grow your brand. And what you showed me was it's all about you, because the only thing you're talking about is your company and you're adding no value. That's what I see. Christina, thoughts? You're smiling.
Absolutely. That's true. I say that all the time. I don't understand what's the point of, I mean, I understand why you like things, but if you're going to like it, at least add some value to the conversation. Why did you share that article? Why is it relevant? If I have to click on the link to get value, then you're doing just clickbait to me. You're not actually adding to the conversation. You're not showing your point of view. You're not showing me why I should even bother to take that next step and click on it, or why I should even value your opinion. You're not sharing me any opinion. So I kind of just see you as a resource rather than someone who's going to teach me or show me a new way of thinking about something, or give me some differentiation, teach for differentiation, which is something I like to talk about.
All right. So if the first step was making it relevant so you can build value and trust, and then that led to, you personalizing your outreach, your storytelling, not necessarily call to action, just adding value, because you know your ICP and you know your personas. And then that led to understanding the second step, which is them doing a background check on you. So what's your personal branding? The third area I see reps lose it all the time is taking too much of my time. And they said another way, I need you to get intimate with me really fast. All right? Because I don't have time for a long dating game. I either want to find out, are we going to be partners or am I moving on? So Christina, and you've said this, the C-suite doesn't actually spend a lot of time engaging. In fact, often they avoid it. Yet here I am saying we need to get intimate fast. That's what I want people to do with me. So let me ask you this. I'm looking at you as my dating genie. Christina, what is the fastest way, the fastest route to get intimate with my target executives?
All right. Like you said, target executive, C-suite, not interested in making more friends. They don't need 1,000 connections. They don't need more friends. They don't need more people that are just going to, say yes to them. What they're truly interested in is how much value you can bring to them personally, how much value you can bring to their organization, value to their boardroom, and then value to their employees and value to their P&L. So that's where you go back to not the product and the benefits that, they don't care about that. They want actual value. They operate on a strategic level. So they care about the value that you can bring, and they don't care about your company's value proposition. Two totally different things. And so valuable content for C-suite, what I've seen, it means insights. So they want stats, they want facts, they want a logical argument for change. And you can complement that with the how-to guides and the other supplemental materials, but you need to establish the reason for them to get involved with the discussion with you. And the reason is not the product. It's not the benefits. It's not the solution. The reason is about the prospect's company, the individual decision maker themselves, or that exec that you're trying to target. And I think what's missing in profiles and in social, email, live conversations, any interaction is that sales and marketing aren't having that kind of conversation with the C-suite.
Okay. So you mentioned insights. The insights are a really fast way to get to that intimacy. I will contend, there's another way of looking at this. Intimacy with your buyer can often be expedited, accelerated by what we like to refer to as the aha moment. So the aha moment is when you make me go, aha, I wasn't there, but you intrigued me. You made it relevant. I started to trust you. I started to believe you. I let you in. I reached out to you. We had live conversation. I brought my friends. You then challenged my way of thinking. You then said, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Because the thing is, if I listen to my install base, what'll often happen, because you should always talk to your customers, but understand if I listen to just my customers or just the people who are within my own organization, because we become a bit of an echo chamber, I will fall guilty to what Henry Ford talks about. He had a great quote. He said, if I'd listened to my marketplace, I would have developed a faster horse. And that's often what people do, and they just do more activity. They're building a faster horse. But the current activity I have isn't working because the process is broken, which is why we have this whole conversation and Christina here today. This is not Christina's first time here. She and her partner, Eric, keep giving me these aha moments. That's why we keep bringing them back. So Christina, how do we do aha moments? How do I train my rep? If I'm a sales leader, how do I impart that process upon them to give aha moments? Is it a training? Is it an equipping? What is it?
So first of all, you have to think about an aha moment as something that's going to differentiate you from maybe other people that are trying to compete with you or just others in the marketplace. What I'm seeing is most supply chain, SaaS, tech sales, and marketing teams are basing their content and messaging on what prospects and customers tell them through either voice of the customer, sales discovery, case studies they might have done. But that's the same info that, other orgs might be talking about, and they're basing the strategies and approaches on. So they're just kind of reacting and connecting predefined or identified needs and wants with specific capabilities, and it's resulting in commodity messaging. So you have to have a way of making people think differently. And when you have the commodity messaging, you make it a price-based conversation. And because your competitors are also responding to the same insights with similar capabilities, maybe just worded a little differently. So if you're not bringing that aha or that different way of thinking to something, you're not going to have the conversation that you want to have. You're going to have the conversation that maybe all your competitors are having or others in your space are having.
Okay. So one of the things that's over and over again with that aha moment, with that adding value, driving intimacy, is that you're actually challenging your buyer. That's hard. There's a lot of tension there. So if I'm a sales rep, this scares the hell out of me. How do I earn the respect of the C-suite? How do I earn the right to challenge them so I can get to that intimacy, so I can have that aha moment with them? Christina, help me overcome that tension.
Well, you know what? I don't think you could challenge right away in the first message. It can be a little aggressive. There's some finesse to it. I'm alluding to the challenger sale. I'm not sure if anyone's necessarily familiar with it. I highly recommend it. But you have to get people thinking of a different way of what they're already doing. You have to show what the issue is with staying with what they're doing now and how it's more painful to stay in the status quo than changing, and why. If you can answer that, that's going to be a totally different conversation.
Okay. Can you answer that, guys? If you can't, you need to fix that. Now, you can do it yourself, or you can bring in an outside expert. Many people bring in Christina to help with that process. But you gotta do that. We're giving you all the steps here, folks. All right, Christina, I got one more thing for you. One of the things I hear over and over again is, yeah, Prale, everything you're saying makes sense. Yeah, I get it. But you know what? It's a numbers game. So I'm going to accept all those caveats, knowing I'll have a low response rate, blah, blah, blah. And it's all about the volume. It's a different tactic, Daryl, but it works. So what do you say to them? Why would you shift from a volume game to the whole personal ABM, that one-on-one game? Is it a volume game? What are the results? How do they compare? How do I rebut that objection?
I think they need to reassess the volume game, because if I'm sending out, let's say, 100 emails a day, 5 days a week, 500 emails a week, and I get maybe one response, that conversion is pretty low to me. I like the laser focus because I need to name who I'm going to target, and I need to know and identify them. And it goes deeper than the ICP. It goes to knowing what's going on in that person's organization, what's important to their role. So let's say you're targeting marketing department. The SVP of marketing is going to have different KPIs and different things that are important to them than the director of marketing or even a marketing manager. So if you can make it relevant to each of those different roles, it's going to have a stronger impact, and you're going to get better results. So it's all about, do you want actual results, or are you okay with your own status quo?
All right. We're getting tight on time here, folks. I really wanted to talk about how you need to change. And I'm speaking from my own personal experience, my own personal journey here with my organization, with my team, with my clients here at VanillaSoft. The common theme that I hear over and over again is, Daryl, teach me how to win over the status quo C-suite. I want that cash they're holding on to. Now, I've worked with Christina. Maybe we can pull up that slide that had her picture and her email address on it. And the reason I want to do that is I want you to do a couple things. I want you to email her any questions you have, or you can email me and I'll just bring her in. So it's there. I also want you to go to LinkedIn and follow her because she's a gold mine. That's why I brought her on. Now, Christina, we talked about bringing in outside help. You are with Stop the Sales Drop and Personal ABM. Not to sound pitchy, but maybe people here who are saying, I need help. I need help. How can you help?
Absolutely. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Give me a personal message, obviously, not personalized with just my name. And I will have a one-on-one conversation with you. So it's Christina Jaramillo or Jaramillo. And check out personalabm.com and stopthesalesdrop.com. That's stopthesalesdrop.com is our education and events arm, and everything is mostly actually, it's all ungated information. There's videos from people like you, Daryl. There's audio. There's a bunch of stuff. So please sign up and check it out.
Speaking of videos and content, including lowlifes like me, if I recall correctly, you and I are going to be sharing the limelight again shortly on a panel. What's that all about?
Oh, yeah. The Reboot Friday series that we're doing. Yours, I believe, is coming up in a few weeks. And we're going to, just reboot sales, marketing, sales enablement. And your panel, if I'm not mistaken, is actually talking about revenue. So definitely check that out at stopthesalesdrop.com/Friday reboot.
Awesome. All right, folks. Today was a fun conversation. I hope you got value out of it. If you thought I was kind of yelling at you a little bit, I was. But it's only out of love. Only because I want you to succeed, and only because I'm walking the same journey myself. We ourselves transitioned to a whole ABM model this year. Christina was a large influence on that. Sangram, Vajre, Terminus, another large influence on that. You should follow him as well. There's many people out there. It's made a difference. I feel your pain. These are the things I've learned. This is what Christina talks about all the time. I suspect this is what you're going through. It's a big process. If there's any way we can help here, let me know. But in the meantime, if you like today's session, well, guess what? There's a whole bunch of vanillasoft.com, including more Christina. You can never have enough Christina. You know what I'm saying? A little bit of Christina in my life. That's what we're talking about right now, folks. With that, we're done. We wish you much success. Have a fantastic day. My name is Daryl Prale. I'm with VanillaSoft. We'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.